Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. And of course, you are not, hallucinating. This is not a dream. This is truly a rare spectacle build name for you guys here today, because a buddy of mine said, hey, I found this really cool build name on a player in the rosters, because obviously he was like in my NBA or whatever he was looking at some rosters trying to find some cool build names. He found a cool build name and said, hey, I found this build name. Can you try to make it? And of course, me being the god tier builder that I am, I went in and I actually did it. It took me a few attempts, because I obviously knew the bare minimum basics of, what they were trying to ask of me. But then once I got down to the nitty gritty and I found it, and I was messing around with all the stats for the last hour pretty much, or the last at least like 45 minutes or so, I've been sitting here tweaking the stats, little by little, trying to get the best possible version of this build. And I said, you know what, let's try to make this a TJ McConnell type of build. But obviously we have the insane build name of a chaos general. So what exactly does that mean? Well, I'm going to show you guys right now. We have a 6'1" point guard. Like I said, I wanted to make it more of like a TJ McConnell type at this point. But obviously you don't have to make them the short. Obviously you just have to have these stats. So as long as you have some of these stats, and I'll tell you what stats need to be what and everything like that. So whenever you make your own, you can get it. So on this build, we do have an 86 close shot, because we're not going to go with a driving dunk. You can have driving dunk, and you can actually make a version with driving dunk. But obviously you cannot go anything past like an 81 driving dunk or anything like that. So it's just better off just to have like an 80, 81 driving dunk, and also like still having like your 80 to 83 driving layup as well. And that's obviously if you have like a lower close shot, obviously. But for me specifically, I wanted to have, a higher close shot for the sake of getting float game on gold here, because obviously it's a TJ McConnell type. So it makes a lot of sense that he would be able to shoot more of the midi and also score, in the layup in the close range proximity as well. So obviously that's the reason why these stats are, like they are. But obviously you can indeed do one with an 80 driving dunk, so you can eventually use caps to get all those insane dunk animations and everything like that. So that would be pretty solid. But ultimately you can also flip the shooting as well. And also I have the driving layup on this version at an 83, because you cannot go to an 84 or an 85 layup, otherwise it changes the name. So I just kept it at an 83, which is close enough for me to be able to utilize obviously like at least one or two cap breakers in order to get layup mixmaster on silver, which would be pretty solid. So that's the main reason why we did that. But our shooting, we have an 84 mid-range, because no matter if you are using mid-range or three-pointer, it doesn't matter which one that you have the highest rating on, you just cannot go past an 84. You cannot reach 85. You cannot pass go. You cannot collect $200. You cannot go to an 85 plus. So that's the main reason why we are not doing that specifically on our mid-range. Otherwise, I totally would, but we cannot. And the same thing goes for the three-pointer. If you decide to have a higher three-pointer than the mid-range, then you cannot go to an 85 three-pointer, but you can obviously max out at an 84. So that just leaves you to be able to utilize cap breakers to get to the 85. So you can ultimately get that challenger, or not challenger, Deadeye badge on silver. And then, using some other cap breakers as well to be able to get your shifty shooter on silver as well, if you so choose to. Or if you want to use all 5 to get gold set shot, then by all means, go ahead and do so. But obviously, this is what the ratings kind of require you to be. You don't have to have necessarily an 84 and a 78, or, like anything close like that. You can have up to like an 83 point rating with an 84 mid-range if you really wanted to, or even vice versa, an 84 three-pointer with an 80 mid-range. You can ultimately do that if you wanted to sacrifice some of your other stats. Like, as you can see, my steal rating is super high, and I'll talk more about that when we get to it. So obviously, if you don't want to have that high of a steal rating because you want to have like an 83 point rating, or an 80 mid-range because you have the other one at 84, by all means, you can ultimately do that. Same thing with like the same concept as well, like I said, with the driving dunk as well. Otherwise, you can just, drop down your steal rating a little bit just so you can get a driving dunk rating as well. But ultimately, you just cannot surpass an 85 on either mid-range or three-point shot. So that's pretty good. But obviously, if you guys want to be able to be a more consistent three-point shooter or be a consistent three-point shooter, obviously because you're not making a TJ McConnell type or anything like that, or even a Jason Kidd type like this is as well, then by all means, go with the three-pointer instead of the mid-range. You can easily do that. And also, it doesn't even have to be this big or this much. You can still have like a 76 or like a 75 in the other stat as well if you really wanted to have that low of a rating on your other stat. For playmaking, though, you pretty much have to have a 92 plus on your playmaking, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. If not, then obviously you can just have like a lower pass accuracy as well. But for this one in particular, we do have a 93, just because like ultimately you can go with like a 94 or a 95, which you ultimately can, I believe, go to like a 94 or 95. Like I said, it's just very, very difficult to do with the 96 deal that I have. And I just feel like the 93 is pretty good because then I just need 2 cap breakers to get to versatile visionary on gold, as well as a bailout on or a versatile visionary on Hall of Fame, bailout on gold, and then be able to get so many opportunities for legends. And it's mainly like the same concept as I talked about in my previous video with the Jokic build with the triple double threat. So if you guys have seen that video, I talk more about this like in depth, to where it starts with a 92 pass accuracy instead of this one being a 93. But that one is pretty much the same concept. We're looking to be able to get to maybe a 94 if you really want to, and then use a +2 on your versatile visionary to get that on legend, use a +1 on break starter for legend, then use a +1 on dimer as well to get that on legend. That would be really good. And then ultimately, you can use another +2 to have legend bailout as well, because it'll be on gold at that point. So obviously you use 1 cap breaker here, use 2 +2s and 2 +1s, and then you'll be able to have pretty much all legend, pass accuracy badges here without even needing a 99 or a 98 pass accuracy, which is insane. So keep that in mind with that. But we do have a 90 ball handling. It just really seems like you can't drop it down too much. I mean, obviously when you have like a 92 pass accuracy, you can only have up to like what, an 87, 88 on your pass accuracy, or on your ball handling when you have a 92 pass accuracy. So really, just bring it up to a 90, get your handles for days as well, and then you can call it a day there. That's really, really solid of a break point. And then we have a 91 speed ball because we want to be pretty quick. I mean, no other reason other than that. I don't know if you can lower the speed of the ball. You probably can lower the speed with the ball if you really, really wanted to. Use those like points elsewhere, like I mentioned with the 3-pointer or the driving dunk, all that stuff. Then you probably ultimately can. But, just for the sake of this, I wanted to make sure that because I'm small, I wanted to be speedy. I wanted to be quick with the ball as well. So I went with the 91, get that lightning launch, which ultimately, once again, you can use a +1 on it and get it on legend. That'd be pretty good. Now for defense, this is where the bread and butter comes into play. Against the only have an 84. Snoops, why do you not have an 85 for that on-ball menace? Well, because you cannot surpass an 84 perimeter defense. Same thing with the mid-range and 3-pointer. You cannot get to an 85 plus on your perimeter defense. Otherwise, it's just going to call you a defensive playmaker, which ultimately sounds really cool, but you can get the defensive playmaker build name by having an 85 plus perimeter defense. But ultimately, it's still pretty good because, as you guys know, with cap breakers, you can get your name changed with cap breakers, but ultimately, you don't have to change your name with cap breakers. So that's the really, really good thing, is that you can choose to keep your name or change your name as well with when you have those cap breakers active. So that's a really cool thing. You can do it this way and then use those cap breakers to be able to get all these stats upgraded, or these badges and whatnot, and still keep the same build name that you were not able to keep before when getting those badges in the builder. So pretty cool stuff there, though. You do have that off-ball pest on gold, pick dodger, and challenger on silver, so you at least have those upgraded. Just you need that 1 cap breaker for on-ball menace on silver. And then the bread and butter of this build, besides the playmaking, is our steal rating. You can ultimately do this even with as low as like a 91, but you pretty much should be considering getting a 91 plus. I do believe it has to be like a 91 plus, like super high, because chaos, right? Chaos general, you're pretty much looking for chaos, getting steals, getting stops, passing the ball, being really quick, this and that and all that stuff. So practically, if you wanted to, you can have up to a 96 and then use like a couple caps to get to a 99, be able to get that, legend glove and interceptor, which would be insane. That would be pretty awesome. So then you don't have to utilize your a max +1 for both the glove and interceptor in order to get those badges, um, to legend. You don't have to use the max +1s for it. So now you can ultimately just get the caps there and then utilize pretty much all of your max +1s and +2s for everything else, especially playmaking. And then especially, like shooting if you really wanted to, finishing if you really wanted to. But ultimately, it's just up to how you guys want to play the build, obviously. But the 96, I feel like, is very, very strong and would prove to be very, very annoying. And then we have a 43 block rating because why not? But anyway, rebounding, pretty simple. Nothing really too crazy here in rebounding. But our speed is a 91 because we have a 91 speed with ball, because those two are tied together. So that's the main reason why we have a 91 speed with ball, or a 91 speed with ball with the 91 speed. Ultimately, you can use one cap breaker to get to a 92 speed, and then one cap breaker on agility to also get that slippery off ball badge on Hall of Fame if you really wanted to. Ultimately, like I mentioned, 87 agility, so it gives us pick dodger on ball menace, but obviously we don't have the ratings to be able to upgrade it all the way because of our agility, but option is there for the sake of agility to an 88 for slippery off ball at least. Strength, that is 60, and the strength is a 60, so we can get that strong handle badge on at least bronze, physical finisher on at least bronze, just something to have there. Just in general, you can only max out at a 61, so I don't really think there is a point in all that. And then a 65 on our vertical, which is 65 is still pretty good for posterizer, but ultimately we're not going to be able to get posterizer. But obviously, if you guys did, drop the pass accuracy down to a 92, and you did drop the steal down to a 91, ultimately, if you guys did that, and then you can also drop the agility down by a couple points as well. So if you did all that, and you got to like the 80 driving dunk, I think it'll be pretty cool, because then with the vertical, you should be able to get some really, really good vertical cap breaker potential, even if you only have like a 70. So that would be really, really strong there. But ultimately, could be a really, really good concept. If you guys want to see this version of the build with the driving dunk, hit that like button, hit that subscribe, and let me know in the comment section down below. But I feel like this build is very, very strong for what it is. I think it's very cool. These are the shades of that we get: Tim Hardaway, Isaiah Thomas, the original Isaiah Thomas, and then Jason Kidd from the Nets. Chaos General. Go-to badges obviously being glove, interceptor, Hall of Fame, break starter on Hall of Fame for some reason. Our top attributes being an A+ in steal, A in pass accuracy, A in speed with ball, with our strengths being quick hands to force turnovers, breaks defenses with slick vision, elite top end speed, difficult to slow down, and the only weakness here is that we are not a dunking threat, which ultimately can be changed once we actually add like we do a version of this with the dunk rating. So yeah, that's pretty much about it when it comes to this. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pull it out for you guys to show you the cap breaker potential on this build, because I think it's really, really fucking cool. So I'm going to pull this out and show you guys the cap breakers. All right, guys, so here is the cap breakers, and as I mentioned, you would only need one or two, but thankfully, because of the way that we have our driving layup set up, we get a +2 right here with just one cap breaker. So only one cap breaker for us to have an 85 driving layup, so that's really, really good. Obviously, we knew that it's going to be a little difficult to get, cap breakers for mid-range and three-pointer, because they're only going to be +1s, but we do have, obviously, the +1 here for the 85 mid-range to get that silver Deadeye badge going, so that is pretty solid there. Obviously, the +1s for all of, playmaking, because obviously we have super high ratings for them. And then, as I mentioned as well, Really good vertical here with the +4, 4, 3, 3, 3. Pretty good stuff there. Some decent ones for rebounding. You can grab, both of these just to get up to, what is it, a 62 defensive rebound. That will give you rebound chaser on bronze, which is pretty solid there. You have some stuff for block. It's nothing really too crazy because you're not going to be able to get to a 68 block rating, unfortunately. So it's whatever. I mean, there's like a lot of stuff here. I mean, like the 3 for steal, the 1 on perimeter defense that I mentioned as well, the 1 cap breaker for driving layup. So that's like what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for that. 6 if you do the mid-range, 7 for pass accuracy. So that's really only 7 that you are completely 100% needing. Then obviously, like if you do the 4, or technically 3, if you do the 3 for your speed with ball to get to the 94 on lightning launch, then that's 10 total. That's really 10 total cap breakers that you need right there. So I feel like there's going to be a lot of good potential, man, for this build, especially for like a shorter build. Let me know what you guys think of this build, though, in the comment section down below. I definitely think it's a really, really solid build. But yeah, that's going to be it for me. Hope that you guys enjoyed. I'll see y'all in the next one. Later, everybody.